Hi, this is Chris with Sanderson Test Prep, and in this video we are reviewing the first page of Section 3 Math from Practice Test 1. So let's dive right into these questions. For question 1, it says if x minus 1 divided by 3 equals k and k equals 3, what's the value of x? So for this question, this is going to be a plug-in, the given value question, and we'll do x minus 1 divided by 3 equals 3 when we plug in for k. Now to get rid of this denominator on the left side, we have to multiply by 3 for that to cancel out, and whatever you do to one side you have to do to the other. So we multiply both sides by 3 and we'll be left with x minus 1 equals 9. Now we're going to add 1 to both sides and x will equal 10. Answer choice D for question 1. Let's go ahead and move on to question 2. So for question 2, we see something that looks a little bit funky. They tell us for I equals the square root of -1, and at first glance, a lot of students maybe haven't seen this before and might be intimidated by this question. But something really helpful to note is that your answer choices all include an I, which means we can leave things in terms of I. We don't have to plug in this funky looking square root that has a negative number inside. So for our purposes on this question, we can ignore that little piece of information and we can just try to add these two expressions together. So here we're going to combine like terms. A positive 7 and a negative 8 will give us a -1, and a positive 3i and a positive 9i together will be 12i, and that will match up to what we see in answer choice A. So keep in mind the question number that you're on, because SAT math does go easy to hard. And if you're on question 2, a good way to think of it is I'm on question 2, but it's question 2 out of 15 multiple choice questions. That lets you know approximately where you are difficulty-wise. So I'm in the very beginning of the section. This shouldn't be that hard, so maybe some information that they present, like this little piece at the beginning that we saw here and crossed out, might not be something that is even involved in the question. It might be something that visually looks intimidating, but the math involved, when we combine like terms over here, is much more familiar. Let's move ahead to question 3. On Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? So for this, it's M for 5 hours, which will be 5M, and then it's P for 4 hours, which will be 4P, and we are adding those together, which will give us 5M plus 4P. Now, even if you answered this question and you got it right, no problem, I still want you to take a look at this question and understand the way that the test makers are going to design incorrect answer choices. Because if you look, the answer choices that are incorrect on this question are not all that random. They actually carefully structure incorrect answer choices to try to be tempting based on common numerical mistakes that students make. So for example, instead of adding them together as separate terms, if you had added the 5 and the 4, that's where you would get the 9MP that we see for answer choice A. And if you had multiplied them, that's where we get the 20MP. And then if you switched them up and just flip-flopped which was which, an easy mistake to make, but that's where we get the 4M plus 5P in answer choice D. So just be careful, because a lot of times in math, we come up with an answer and we see it right there in our answer choices and we get very excited because we say, oh, if it's there, it must be right. But sometimes we have to be a little bit careful, because just because it's there doesn't mean that it's automatically correct. Sometimes it could be the case that they really put together tempting answer choices by including common miscalculations. Now let's take a look at the last one for this page. This is a long one, so let's read through this. Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? Okay, so first things first, we want to look at the scenario described, and that's one nice thing that SAT will do for us. So we like to optimistically, when appropriate, try to focus on the nice things. So sometimes the test will help us out, and sometimes the test will be reasonable. And with word problems, you will see that the numbers that you have as your correct answers to word problems will be realistic. So let's think realistically for this. If Kathy's a repair technician for a phone company, so she's going to complete the repairs within 108 days. Well, let's think about that. If you brought your phone in to a phone company and said, hey, I cracked my screen, I'd like this fixed. How long will it take? If they told you 108 days, so that's a pretty long time. 108 days is not quite 4 months, but close to it. That would be like 3.5, 4 months. And that wouldn't make sense, right? You would say, absolutely not. I'm not giving you my phone for 4 months for you to fix this cracked screen. So that's maybe not that realistic. Let's check answer choice B. Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. Okay, I mean, if that's your full-time job and you're doing it 8 hours a day, that could maybe be realistic. You're getting, a phone or two every hour, that you fix, and, over the course of a week, you're coming up with something like 108. That's maybe realistic. Let's keep that one on the table. Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour. Okay, so per hour, for 108 phones, that would be almost 2 phones a minute. That would be pretty fast. And, maybe she's the world record holder in phone repair, and that'd be great. But realistically, 108 phones per hour to repair seems extraordinarily high. And then last answer choice, Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. Seems like a lot, but maybe a little bit more manageable. So here, we're looking at answer choices B and maybe answer choice D that could be realistic. And now we want to look at the actual math of the question. Here we're going to look at the units. So here, P, it says, is the number of phones. And that means that each unit, and I'm going to zoom in here to this equation, but each unit, phones, if that's number of phones, then that means each term in the equation also has to be that same unit. So here, 108 has to represent phones. And then 23D together, right? This whole thing together. When you do 23 times D, that has to come out to give you phones. Each unit that you're given has to match up. So it has to be, for this question, that each term represents phones. And if each term represents phones, then here, if we're looking at our answer choices, we've got an answer choice that represents phones and an answer choice that represents phones per day. And it's not supposed to be per day. The appropriate units for every term in this expression will be phones. So it has to be answer choice B. And as we discussed earlier, that is realistically the most appropriate value for this question. For more, check out our other videos walking through the rest of this test. Thanks for watching.